Hi, I'm ChuYing. Welcome to Power Your Story podcast. I am here with Christian, Carla, and José and Toni. Today we are talking with Miss Gray, a social worker at our school, about what to do when sad things happen. Miss Gray, how was your day?
Oh, thank you for asking, Chu. My day was okay. It's finals week for me. I am a student still, so it's been a little hectic, but it's okay. Thank you.
What do you do every day as a social worker?
So it does depend day to day, but usually I'll check in with individual students on my schedule, either in small groups, in their classrooms, or privately in a social work office. During sessions with students, we work towards their social and emotional goals. I'll also teach classes on social and emotional skills as well.
Like in my class.
Yeah, like your class, exactly.
Oh, like
Yeah.
my class.
Yeah, that's exactly what I mean. Yeah, and then some other things that I do are just check in with your teachers to see how you all are progressing. And then I'll also intervene and provide resources if there are any like crises happening at school, if students are having really bad days, anything like that.
What are some skill that you teach students?
Some of the skills that I've taught this year are a lot of social skills. So I've taught some things like how to use I statements, how to ask follow up questions, how to say no in certain situations. And then in the future, I would like to work with students more on teaching like coping strategies, different breathing strategies, different techniques that I want to learn on how to better help students cope with hard situations.
Pass mic to Christian.
Miss Grace, why are you a social worker?
I've always known that I wanted to work with students in some capacity. After undergrad school in Michigan, I moved to Chicago where I did a volunteer program with AmeriCorps called City Year. And then in that program, I worked in a high school where I helped the students, their social and emotional, as well as some academic goals. So I would do like mentoring and tutoring with them. And I loved this work so much that I really decided I wanted to do something similar for my full time career. After this experience and doing some research on careers, I found that a school social worker can do similar work to what I was doing with City Year. So I decided in 2021 to go back to school for my master's degree and become a school social worker.
Who inspires you?
One of my biggest inspirations to become a school social worker and work with students was my high school counselor. When I was a high school student, I really struggled with my own social and emotional needs. And she was someone who provided services that helped me to grow and to feel safe. And I realized that through that I really want to provide that same feeling for the students that I work with.
What can we do if we have a bad day?
When I'm having a bad day, sometimes it's helpful for me to kind of pause and take some deep breaths in the moment just to kind of recenter myself. But then at the end of the day, I like to think about, even if it's just one thing that I'm still really grateful for that happened that day. So maybe I got to talk to a friend about something bad that happened, and they were able to help me through it. Or maybe I was able to go out for coffee at lunch, and that really made me get through the day. Really just thinking about what made me feel grateful that day makes the day not feel so bad.
When a tragedy happens, how can we feel better?
When a world tragedy happens, I find it really helpful to find a sense of community with others. So, coming together with people in the community to process the tragedy is really important. Finding people that were also affected by what's going on and just really talking through it. Maybe even coming up with action steps if it's something that we think we can change in the world. But it's also okay to just take some time to reflect and process on your own, maybe through journaling, maybe not thinking about the tragedy for a minute, just to kind of process your emotions a little bit, and then coming back to it and talking through it with someone else.
A person like José.
When you lose someone closest to you, like a friend or family member or parent passes away, how can you go through that?
When this has happened to me, something that I really like to do is to surround myself with people who also knew that person so that we can share memories and share good times about that person and kind of just celebrate that person's life. I think that that's something that's been most important to me. Sometimes I do just need a distraction from that loss. So I will listen to music, I will journal, do things like that. But what I find that really helps me the most is getting together with others and celebrating the life of that person and what they accomplished.
Okay. What some are things that could bring us joys and help us have a happy relationships?
I'm really big on gratitude. Continuing to remind yourself what and who you are grateful for can help strengthen those relationships and bring you joy. And then also being honest about how we feel and communicating in respectful ways with those we have relationships with is really important to having those relationships be happy and healthy.
For the last question, why is this family important, and what can we do if we don't have supportive family members around us?
Yeah, I think family is really important because it brings us a sense of support and that sense of community. Surviving in this world completely alone is really, really hard, if not impossible. And I don't think it's something that humans were really made to do, right? At the beginning of humans, we were working together, hunting and gathering together. And I think we still need each other today, no matter how resilient you may be. And I think that family can mean different things. So, not necessarily like through blood or through marriage. I think that we have our family on paper, and then we have our family that we choose, who consists of people who bring us joy and comfort and support and who encourage us to grow. And I would say that if your family isn't supportive, to really hold close those who are and have them kind of become your family and find people who maybe share the same interests in you and have the same identities as you and hold them really close as well.
All right, I'm passing it to Mike to Toni.
Can you teach us any breathing exercises to help us relax?
Yeah, I love breathing. I think everyone is always like, just take a deep breath, but there are actual like techniques to breathing, and one that I really like that's super easy that I can do anywhere is square breathing. So you breathe in through your nose for 4, hold for 4, out through your nose for 4, hold for 4, and then repeat that until you start feeling calm again. So should we try it together? All right, so we're gonna breathe in through our nose and out through our mouth, and I'm gonna count. Okay, so breathe in 1, 2, 3, 4, hold 2, 3, 4, breathe out 2, 3, 4, and hold 2, 3, 4. And then you just keep doing that until you're starting to feel relaxed.
What do you think about watching sad movies and reading sad stories? Is that okay?
Short answer, yes. I really love watching and reading sad stories stories of all emotions. But I think it's okay to watch sad movies and read sad stories sometimes because sadness is a perfectly normal and healthy emotion for us to feel. And sometimes watching these things or reading these stories can bring us kind of a release in ways that we may not expect. I know if something really sad is happening in my life and I'm having a hard time processing it, sometimes watching a movie or reading a story about someone who's going through something similar kind of helps me process those emotions and cry or grieve and let it out. And then I also think that sad movies and stories in general are really important in teaching us how to be empathetic to others and the sadness that they may be experiencing so that we can have better relationships with people.
What does that mean, being empathetic?
So when I think of empathy, I think of feeling what other people are feeling and being able to put yourself in someone else's shoes. So if someone in this story is feeling sad, it teaches me how to kind of feel sad for them and feel sad with them and about what they're sad about.
Can you tell us more about resilience? What does that mean?
To me, resilience means to kind of like persevere or continue on despite how hard things may be. I was kind of looking up different definitions of resilience, and one of them said that to be resilient means you recover quickly from something. But I don't think you need to necessarily recover quickly. I think that you can be resilient even if you take your time to process and to heal. And actually, I think that in many cases, that time is necessary. And if we really push ourselves too hard to get past something too quickly, we may not get a chance to fully heal. So it may affect us later down the road instead of just taking our time to heal when it happens.
I pass the mic to Carlos.
How can I get more confident and resilient in stressful situations?
When I need confidence in stressful situations, I try to tell myself that I have always survived everything that I didn't think I could survive before, and that there's a really good chance I'm going to be able to survive this too, which is something that's really hard to think about, right? When you are stressed out, but I do think that's something to try to remember. It's definitely something my mom tells me, right? Shelby, you've made it through 100% of the bad times so far, and you're going to keep making it through. So that really helps me be resilient. Even if I can't remind myself, having someone else remind me of that really helps.
What's the hardest part of your job?
Yeah, the hardest part of being a social worker is seeing the pain that others can go through. I talk to people who have gone through a lot of different things, and I try to take the weight off their shoulders. But sometimes that weight doesn't just disappear, it can end up on my shoulders too. And that's why I think taking time to be resilient and journal and talk to others and do all these things that I'm telling you all to do, I need to do those for myself and practice self-care as a social worker so that I don't end up feeling burnt out or just heavy, because there is a lot of sadness and pain that I hear, in addition to really happy things. But I would say the sadness that I see and the pain that I see is what makes this job the hardest.
Why do you like helping people?
Yeah, I love this question because I really love helping people. And what I love most about helping people is seeing them grow. There's something really beautiful about seeing what people are capable of and seeing that resilience that we talked about in people. It's really powerful, and I love bearing witness to that.
Miss Grace, when you see people being sad, do you cry with them or do you just talk to them?
That is a really good question. That's something I'm kind of figuring out the more that I do this work. I always thought, you know, when I see friends being sad, I cry with them. But when I see students being sad, as much as I want to cry, I try to be strong and leave space for them to feel what they're feeling. But sometimes, it is really hard, and I am still a human. And I think that sometimes even if I'm not crying with a student, I might cry about it later because it does still affect me hearing sad things. So I would say ultimately it does depend. I try to not cry with students, but I do care so much that sometimes I do end up crying later.
What makes you calm down a little? Just like me, I used to relax a little, like drawing. And have you done these before?
I don't think I've done just free drawing, but I do like coloring books, like really intense ones that have like really fine lines and stuff. It gives me something to kind of focus on. I really do enjoy coloring, and I think that art is a really beautiful way to help deal with stress. When I was younger, I did theater as a way to kind of help cope with my emotions. I found that living through a character kind of taught me how to deal with my own emotions. So I think art is a really beautiful and powerful way to help cope with emotions. I was just going to say, like my students, I struggle with a lot of what my students struggled with growing up. So I think that's also part of kind of what led me here, as well as, kind of learning through the adults in my life and how they handled certain things that I went through, and learning how I would maybe do that differently, or some things that I would do the same when working with a child or a student that's going through something that I went through, or something different even.
Is there anything else you would like to share with us today?
I just want to say thank you all for having me. Thanks, Chu, for thinking of me to come on this podcast. I really appreciate you all listening to what I have to say.
Thank you, Miss Gray, for being on Power Your Story podcast.